Moria's defeat in the pumpkin carving contest had left her angrier than ever. No matter what magic she used, no matter how many tricks she pulled, Clever always managed to outshine her. His pumpkins were never the biggest or most magical, but his charm and understanding of the villagers always seemed to win them over. This year, things would be different and had to be. But Moria knew she couldn't rely on her own judgment anymore. She needed to know her future to find out how to win once and for all. That meant only one thing: a visit to Orlinda, the fortune-teller who could see the future through her crystal ball. Moria didn't particularly like Orlinda. They had a history of tension, mostly because Moria had tried unsuccessfully to cheat Orlinda out of her services in the past. Still, Moria needed answers, and Orlinda was the only one who could give them to her. With a determined scowl, Moria flew her broom over to Orlinda's cottage, Daniel Thorne riding along lazily behind her. "You think this is going to work?" Daniel Thorne asked, clearly unimpressed. "It has to," Moria snapped. "I'm not leaving without knowing how to win this year." When they arrived, Orlinda was waiting by her front door, her crystal ball glowing faintly in the corner of the room behind her. "Which door do you use?" asked the cat. "This is the front door and that is the side door over there," she explained. "But both doors face east. Is there really a difference?" the cat asked. "This is the front because it has a porch," Orlinda said. "But that one has a porch too," said the cat. "No, that's a ramp," Orlinda added, thoroughly explaining while making no sense whatsoever with a sarcastic smile on her face. "Besides, I was wondering when you'd show up," Orlinda said with a knowing smile, dismissing the cat's questions. "I need to see the future," Moria said, her voice demanding. "Tell me how I can win the annual pumpkin contest. I need to beat Clever at his own game." Orlinda crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow. "And what are you offering in return, Moria?" "You know I don't offer my services for free." Moria's eyes narrowed. "After all these years, you want me to pay for this? I thought we had an understanding, an arrangement of sorts." "Oh, we do," Orlinda said with a sly smile. "And that understanding is that nothing is free. If you want to know your future, you'll have to pay." Moria's anger flared. "You're a fortune teller. It's your job to tell me these things." Orlinda shrugged. "Then pay me what I'm owed, or leave. Those are your options." Furious, Moria stormed out of the cottage without looking back. Daniel Thorne followed her, his tail flicking in amusement. "Well, that went well," he muttered. "She'll regret this," Moria said under her breath. "If Orlinda won't give me what I need, I'll just take it." Daniel Thorne's ears perked up. "Oh? And how do you plan on doing that?" Moria stopped in her tracks, her face twisted into a wicked grin. "You're going to steal her crystal ball. If she won't show me the future, I'll find it myself." "But what door do you want me to use? The front door or the side door?" the cat asked. "The front door, you idiot," she said. "They're both the front door," the witch added. "That's what I said," the cat mentioned. "But her being the village seer couldn't see my point," he added. "That's why we're stealing the crystal ball, because she couldn't see mine either," the witch said. Later that night, Daniel Thorne slunk through the shadows toward Orlinda's cottage, his movements silent and precise. He knew exactly where the crystal ball was kept, and with Moria's instructions fresh in his mind, he made his way inside. Orlinda was sound asleep, and the faint glow of the crystal ball cast eerie shadows on the walls. Without a sound, Daniel Thorne grabbed the crystal ball in his claws, slipped it into a satchel, and snuck back out of the cottage. Moria was waiting for him in the woods just outside the village. "Did you get it?" she whispered, her eyes gleaming. Daniel Thorne handed over the satchel, and Moria's grin widened. "Perfect. Now, let's see what the future holds for the annual pumpkin contest." As Moria gazed into the crystal ball, the swirling mist inside began to clear, revealing glimpses of the upcoming contest. She saw the villagers, their hands full of pumpkins, and she saw Clever, his stall once again crowded with eager buyers. But something was different this year. The contest had evolved. It wasn't just about carving anymore. This year, there was a decorating category, too. Moria frowned. Decorating? He's going off of last year's improvisations. But as the vision continued, Moria's scowl deepened. Despite all her efforts, she saw Clever winning the hearts of the villagers once again. His pumpkins, in all shapes and sizes, were a hit. And this time, his wife, Medusa the grumpy cow, who always seemed to complain about his ideas, was with him, shaking her head at his success but standing beside him nonetheless. Clever wins their hearts again? Moria muttered in disbelief. How does he keep doing this? Daniel Thorne, watching from the side, smirked. Maybe he's just better at this than you. Moria glared at him. Shut up. She smashed the crystal ball on a tree in a fit of rage, the pieces scattering in the dirt. I'll beat him. I don't care what the future says. I'll find a way. The cat picked up the pieces and put them back in the satchel and was going to stage an accident in Orlinda's cottage, so she wouldn't search for the orb nor how it broke. As he ran back, he thought to himself, front door? Side door? Oh, what's the difference again? He entered and staged the scene and left. The morning of the annual pumpkin contest dawned bright and chilly. She decided to fly to the market and buy all the supplies before the villagers could buy them. As she arrived, the market was already sold out of supplies, and her blood boiled in frustration. The villagers bustled around the market, excited for the new categories in this year's event. There were pumpkins to carve, pumpkins to decorate, and pumpkins to simply admire. The contest had grown larger than ever, and Clever was at the center of it all. Clever's treasures was once again filled with pumpkins of all sizes, from tiny gourds to massive orange beauties. Even markers and brushes were on display to be sold. They increased the items to sell, but beside him stood Medusa, his ever-complaining, ever-watchful wife, shaking her head at the entire affair. This is too much work, Medusa grumbled, eyeing the decorations with disdain. You always get carried away. I think it's fun, Clever said with a smile, watching as the villagers flocked to his stall. The more pumpkins, the better. Medusa sighed dramatically. You say that every year, and every year I end up cleaning up your mess. As the contest began, Moria watched from her own empty corner, her eyes darting between the villagers and Clever's growing crowd of customers. She had tried tirelessly to sabotage his pumpkins and the supplies, but nothing had worked. He was too clever, too adaptable. Even her theft of Orlinda's crystal ball hadn't given her the advantage she had hoped for. The villagers, once again, gravitated toward Clever's pumpkins. His charm, his understanding of their desires, and his ability to provide what they wanted made him a winner in their eyes. His pumpkins sold out quickly, while Moria's, despite all her efforts, were left untouched. By the end of the day, Clever had not only sold out of pumpkins, but he had also sold out of the brushes and markers. The Alyssum hen, Ven the raven's wife, won the decorating contest. Moria, seething with anger, stood in the shadows, watching as the villagers celebrated Clever's success once again. Daniel Thorne, lounging nearby, sighed. I guess there's always next year, right? Next year? Yes, Moria whispered, her eyes narrowing while rolling her own eyes. Next year, I'll make sure he doesn't win. But deep down, Moria knew that as long as Clever continued to evolve and adapt, her chances of beating him were slipping further and further away. As she arrived at her cottage, she opened her book of spells and found a spell she really thought would do the trick. It was a spell that would turn the belly of the cauldron filled with liquid into a future-seeing concoction. She was ready to prepare for this new reality. Some schemes are meant to cause harm, but Moria's schemes only cause harm to herself. In the end, she failed to learn that our futures are shaped by our own choices and efforts, whether they lead to good or bad outcomes. No crystal ball, stolen or otherwise, can determine our destiny, but regardless, she would continue to try.